welcome to another episode of A Closer Look. Thank you for joining us. Papua New Guinea National Census is ready to roll out this year after 13 years of delay. Preparations leading up to the 2024 census have given confidence to the Minister for Administrative Services and Vice Minister assisting Prime Minister Richard Masere and the National Statistician John Igitoy that this exercise is ready to roll out on the 17th of June.
Preparations towards the 2024 national census have started after its launching on the 27th of March 2024 in Port Moresby. Within this period, the National Statistical Office has given directions to the provinces to recruit enumerators who will conduct the data collection. They have undergone 3 stages of training to fully equipped with necessary knowledge to perform this massive census exercise. The Census Director, Ajili Kele, explained the importance of this training.
Divided into 4 levels, of which we have the 0 tier, the first tier, the second and the third tier. The third tier is the most important because that is where we have our trainers train the data collectors, and that's the main training, of which it is actually spread throughout the country in almost all the LLGs that are identified as the training venues. So,
on the 17th of June, which is tomorrow, the 2024 national census will kick off in the country. People in the country are being urged to prepare for this in their respective households. The Census Director explained the strategy that will be used to collect the data.
The methodology in terms of how we want to count people, where the reference night of which we have defined as census Sunday, the Sunday the 16th of June, actually ask where you slept on that night. So you are counted where the location of which you slept on the Sunday, the 16th of June. So that is where you are counted.
According to the National Statistician John Igitoy, schools in the country will be closed for 2 weeks to allow for census exercise to be carried out in the country.
The Department of Education has brought forward the holiday calendar to 2 weeks. Thanks to the National Department of Education. By Friday, their teachers will be on holidays that will connect to this census operation.
Among the proposed number of enumerator, which is 22,000, the National Statistical Office has also recruited teachers across the country as enumerators during the 2 weeks.
15,000 plus teachers around the country that will be recruited as part of this program. It's important to recruit people with understanding of the basics of how to operate a tablet and so forth, so that the information they collect is accurate. So around 20,000 at this stage, but we're looking at around 22,000 people to carry out the census across the country.
The government has supported the 2024 census with an amount of 300 million kina funding initially, which was then reduced down to 150 million kina.
The proposed budget was around 300 million kina. So, of course, we had to digest that amount, and then we had to fine-tooth comb it to make sure that whatever that was proposed was what census actually required. And by fine-tooth combing the budget, we were able to cut down the budget from 300 million kina down to 153 million kina. In other words, we've saved the state around 150 million kina.
Based on the budget, they have allocated between 1 million and 1.5 million kina to every provinces.
We've also signed MOUs with all the provincial administration, and the support that they're giving is that where additional logistics is required, or where certain areas of conference rooms need to be used for training, they've offered all those facilities for us to be able to use. So,
Minister Masere and the National Statistician John Igitoy has expressed confidence towards the success of the 2024 national census. They have indicated on several occasions that they are ready to conduct census. Richard Masere pointed out some of the areas that they have considered.
Our landscaping is one of the biggest challenges. We're quite remote in some places. And also, as you're aware, with recent climate change impacts that are affecting the country, where we have in large number of rainforests, we have in certain areas flooded. But we've put in place a contingency plan to ensure that areas that are affected by floods or droughts or affected by landslides, we have a program to work around it to make sure that we pick up, if we can, the relevant data of those particular areas. In the event we are unable to access those areas because of those challenges, we will do an estimation, and once the environment is accessible, there will be a follow-up plan to ensure that we go and register those people that are on the ground. So,
with over 20,000 enumerators recruited across the country, the National Statistical Office has purchased 22,000 tablets with a cost of 17 million kina for the census exercise. The enumerators will use these tablets to collect data digitally.
As it's been collected, it's simultaneously been uploaded onto the cloud-based application. So that means that any data that we collect will not be lost. Unlike in the past where they used manual data collection, of course, when documents were not handed in or papers went missing, it couldn't give us an accurate population data. But with this digital space, it is important that as they are uploading and where there is network, and that's why we signed an agreement with Digicel, because they have a wider coverage across the country, is that as they are uploading the data, it is automatically being uploaded into the cloud application. So we can get a more accurate and more relevant data as they are uploading in respective locations.
On Thursday this week, the Census Operations Center, or COC, was officially opened by Minister Masere and Mr. Igitoi. This center is purposely for communication, monitoring and coordinating the 2024 census operations that will be conducted in the field. Minister Masere urged the general public not to hesitate to call if they need clarification or to share information regarding the census. They can use the toll-free number 180-1676 to call from any network in the country. Prime Minister James Marape also issued a call for all Papua New Guineans to participate in the census. PM Marape said knowing the accurate number of the population will help to plan for education, health, infrastructure, law and order, small to medium enterprises, and various other government interventions. Mr. Masere also explained the importance of national census.
And based on that, the United Nations template that we generally use, or the world generally use to calculate the growth per annum, we should be sitting around 12 million this year. So if the data was shared a couple of years ago at 17 million, obviously there's a concern, because we need the accurate data to ensure that the country prepares well, plans well, and then we can be able to ensure that we've got enough medical drugs to ensure that our population is taken care of. We must have adequate classrooms to ensure that all our children are catered for. We must have proper planning. So if we're building roads to where the populations are. So these are important elements that any country needs to have. So data is critical.
Finally, it has been confirmed and approved by the Minister for Administrative Services, Richard Masere, and the National Statistician, John Igitoi, that the 2024 National Census will start on the 17th of June 2024.
After this break, we take a closer look at the two recent by-elections. Stay with us. Welcome back to a closer look. Two open electorates of 6 recently concluded their by-elections to elect their members of parliament. Maprik Open Electorate seen Libet Capri successful, and Henry Amuli is now member-elect for Sohe Open Electorate. Here is reporter Samantha Solomon with more on the prospect.
The two elected members are Libet Capris for Maprik Open and Henry Amuli for Sohe Open. The by-election for 2 districts have been completed successfully last week. Of the 6 vacant seats in the parliament, 2 districts now have elected members who will represent their people on the floor of Parliament. The reason being for Maprik Open, the elected member in 2022 National General Election passed away in August 2023. He represented his people of Maprik for a year at the floor of Parliament. His seat is now taken over by his son, Libet Caprice. For Sohe Open, the National Court declared the declaration of Henry Amuli null and void. Electoral Commissioner Simon Sinai commended his officers for completion of the 2 by-elections in record time. Sinai acknowledged Team Maprik led by returning officer David Wakies and Team Sohe led by Ms. Daisy Ombogani for the teamwork they put in to complete the election process. The issue of writs was on the 25th of April, nomination closed on 2nd of May, and the polling started on the 29th of May. The return of writs was supposed to be before the 18th of June, and they did complete the process on time. In a media address, Mr. Sinai noted that the recent by-elections were carried out using the LLG polling and LLG counting models, mainly for time management.
Signifies the completion of the elections of the 2 by-elections, Soy Open Electorate and Maprik Open Electorate. We have now returned the writ, which means the election is officially completed and successfully, and now members being elected, and with the return of writ, meaning the members are going to join the political parties and the government or opposition to continue on, carry on with the services in the electorate. The second one was in the Vivek open by-election. We trialed that and we delivered that election in 5 days, counting. And so now these 2, the Maprik and the Soe, complemented that and taken or replicate that idea to qualify this idea of counting on LLG base. So which means I want the people in Papua New Guinea to know and understand with me and the officers on the ground that it frustrates a lot of people when we delay the counting. So we are now, as the Electoral Commission from the East Office, we are using polling and counting arrangements and plans as the same. And after polling, we are counting directly, straight away after the poll. And after the poll, we want to deliver elections in 4 days, 5 days.
The 4 districts are yet to have their by-elections, and they are day open in Western Highlands Province, Pogera Paila in Enga Province, Usinobundi in Medeng, and Medeng Open. In the recent Parliament sitting, member for Finsafen Open, Rainbow Paita, asked a question without notice to Prime Minister James Marape as to when the by-elections for the districts will be held. Paita explained that these people need someone to represent them at the floor of Parliament, given the instance up in Mulitaka where the huge landslide took place.
Time leader karim keke go heavy, but leader sana belly says service come up. Lo people na place. Question blomi emosem. You mean your leader law here now? You got couple of seats where you start free. Now you mean not making by-election yet. We hold very unique positions where you mean hold him people we make them stop long house. Time of city free, those voices cannot be heard on the floor, Mr. Speaker. And in relation to the disaster that happened, we have a vacancy where the seat for Pogera Paela is still stuck vacant. Now Pogera being a very strategic asset where you make a mine inside, it's the melting point of people from Ella, Enga, even people from Sandown, Ogostaplab. Now time leader come up, Navy come up, responsibly Mimi can go, but leader must have passed before government go. Question blomi was one time, Mr. Prime Minister, truly you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, by me put him funding. Lawyer running by-election so that leader must have a place, Nakari maybe a place. That vacancy, you may go to Finsafen on Lagostenaplab, all other leaders will not go. My question to Mr. Prime Minister, and I think Minister assisting Prime Minister on Treasury Matters can take note. When will we release funding for the by-election of several seats in this House, including for Pogora Paila, so they can have the leader on the floor to raise their concerns. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
In response, Prime Minister James Marape says a few districts are still undergoing court cases, and after the court cases are done, the by-elections will start.
There's about 6 seats, if I'm not wrong, that are still vacant. A few of these seats, there's a court case that are running attached to those seats, but we certainly will get by-elections done once we retire Maprik and Sohe. We'll move to the other 2 seats that are currently vacant. The reason why they were a little bit delayed in calling for the by-election, those seats were lost by the death of former members, and out of customary obligations, we had to allow the natural time for recover from the loss to take place. But certainly the Pogra Paila seat and the day seat, if the day seat, if it is totally released of the court case, then they will be in line for by-elections at the very earliest. As I said earlier, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I think day seat, Medang seat, the Kaboom seat, vacant seats that currently have some court cases running against them. In the context, by-elections could not be held at the very earliest. But for those who are totally free, once the 2 by-elections that are underway is totally retired, we will move to hold by-elections in the other seats that are vacant. Thank you.
However, Electoral Commissioner also mentioned that with the consideration of LLG elections and the national census, the remaining by-elections will have to be put off to an appropriate time.
We have plans. We have, because of the LLG election and the census, we put the 3 off. So after the census, we will talk about the 3 by-elections. So we'll see how the LLG preparations go. Not promised, but they are already allocating some money, so we're doing preparations. So it's in the process.
We will now take a quick break, and when we return, we will delve into the subject of mitigating the causes of pollution through the sustainable practice of recycling. You're watching A Closer Look. In 2019, PNG was ranked as the country with the highest pollution-related deaths in Western Pacific region. This is according to the Global Alliance on Health and Pollution. This means air pollution is the main pollution-related risk for death and disease in the country. In this segment of A Closer Look, we look at the pollution in the environment and steps taken to mitigate the threat of overpollution in the environment.
One of the mitigating factors of combating pollution and preserving biodiversity is recycling. Recycling helps to reduce the need for landfill and more costly forms of disposal, and also reduces the need for extracting, refining and processing raw materials, all of which create substantial air and water pollution. This year, Papua New Guinea joined the rest of the world in commemorating the World Environment Day on 5th of June 2024, with the theme for this year, Land Restoration, Desertification and Drought Resilience, with the slogan, Our Land and Our Future. On Saturday, the 8th of June, Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific Partners PNG, with partner Brani's Recycling Limited, held a recycling awareness campaign at Hanwa Bada village here in the nation's capital. Tim Solly, Sales and Commercial Director at Coca-Cola, said that the company is one of the biggest producers of the PET bottles in the country, and through this campaign of recycling PET bottles will mitigate the overpollution in the environment.
We're of the belief that plastic waste is a problem. And you see it. That's why one of the reasons why we're here at Hanua Butter is because you see that a lot of plastic waste goes into the waterways, and then it actually washes up into places like Ella Beach and into the city. So we're agnostic on the product. We believe we are one of the biggest manufacturers of PET, so we believe that since we're one of the biggest, we actually have a role to play. So we will not hold anyone back. Brannis will accept any PET bottle and will pay out against those bottles on the 1 kina for every 1 kilo.
City Manager of NCDC, Ravel Frank, thanked the Coca-Cola Euro-Pacific partners and Brannis Recycling Limited for their joint efforts through this campaign to battle pollution. He also mentioned some of the challenges that the National Capital District has in rubbish collection and pollution of waste in Port Moresby.
It is a sad reality that even educated elites, I normally drive around the city and I see elites also throw bottles of canned Coke and Big Rooster just out of the window, expecting people to pick that up. But if NCDC gives you the statistics on how much we spend in waste collection, you'd be surprised that we spend a lot of money in that in that careless attitude. So NCDC sees the significance of this campaign to its municipal obligation for a clean, safe, healthy, and planned city.
Plastic pollution is an issue all across the world, but it's really a big issue in Papua New Guinea, especially in Port Moresby, as there are limited recycling facilities. EMTV was privileged to be shown one of Brannis recycling sites at Gordon's Ahuya Street by General Manager Peter Karu. Mr. Karu explained the processes that take place in the recycling site.
Cans are brought in, we do quality checks on them, make sure that there's no stones, sticks, iron, whatever, and then it's gone straight to our balers, or the baling machine, which basically is the press machine to get the cans all into blocks. And then we basically pack them in stacks or pallets, and we put them into containers, or 20-foot shipping containers, which are then shipped. At the background, we have our team working on all aspects of the scrap materials that are collected every day, which are processed, packed for export.
Mr. Karu also mentioned some of the recycling materials that they recycle.
We basically collect and buy from working customers and the general public, including corporate and industries. Materials we collect here are aluminum cans, other aluminum products, including copper wires. We also do e-waste materials or ICT materials, motherboards, computers, laptops. We do collection of PET materials also on this site.
With talks of recycling rubbish in the environment and keeping with this year's theme of land restoration, desertification and drought resilience, the Prime Minister James Marape encouraged Papua New Guineans to plant a tree each year to help preserve biodiversity.
When wise men plant trees who said they will not sit under. Papua New Guineans of this generation, I like the slogan Governor Pakov used, our land, our future. We are generation restoration. Governor Pakov, what an appropriate theme. This generation, you can talk big about changing government. You can talk big about everything else, but if you don't get to the basics correct, taking care of our environment, being kind, respectful to environment and to society and to each other, then we are running a race that is totally would be in vain.
That's all we have for you on this episode of A Closer Look. Join us same time next week for another episode. On behalf of the entire team, thank you for watching and pleasant viewing.